Alright, what is up everybody? Welcome back to today's video series. Today we're going to be doing a one and done video with a deck called Skred Red. Now if you're not familiar with what this deck does, essentially it's a mono red deck that has a ton of removal and also plays a card called Blood Moon. Now essentially Blood Moon locks your opponent out of the game by turning their non-basic lands into mountains. Now this affects some decks more than others. Usually 2 or 3 color decks tend to get punished by this card the most, whereas naturally red decks that stick to 1 to 2 colors obviously get affected by this a little bit less. But generally, we have a very powerful mono red card here in the form of Blood Moon that helps to lock our opponents out of the game. Then ideally we pair all of these, the shell, with stuff that can kill creatures. So the reason to play Skred Red, honestly, is if you want to prey on small creature decks, or go wide creature decks, or even big creature decks. You know why? Because we get access to a card called Skred, which for 1 red mana, can actually deal damage to a creature equal to the number of snow permanents you control. And thankfully for us, all of our lands in this deck are snow permanents. So that means if you have 3 lands out, this deals 3 damage. If you have 4 lands out, it deals 4 damage. More lands, it deals 5 damage. Essentially, it's a 1 mana removal spell for a lot of tricky things. Now, early game, it's not as powerful, but if the game extends a little bit longer, which is what this deck is designed to do, just to prolong the game, you end up getting there. And you turn Skred into a really powerful 1 mana removal spell. We have Lightning Bolt here as well, 4 of. It's just a premier burn spell in Modern. Go to the face for 3, or deal a creature or planeswalker for 3. What's nice is you'll also play 4 Relic of Progenitus, which means we can also have some really strong hate against graveyard-based strategies. So there's a lot of Dredge, there's a lot of Bridgevine running around right now, Relic of Progenitus, a lot of KCI, Ironworks combo. So this gives us a lot of game against these graveyard-based strategies that generally are able to beat a lot of interactive decks in game 1, but we get to play 4 of them in the main deck. We play 4 Mind Stone as ramp. It also cycles in the late game when you need to draw some action. And you have 1 of Roast, deals 5 damage to target creature without flying. Sometimes you just need a lot of damage real quick for 2 mana, kill a Hollow One, kill a Gurmag Angler, sometimes kill a Death Shadow. All of that for 2 mana. Roast just gets the job done. Now we play 3 Anger of the Gods, again to kill those creature-based strategies that go wide. 2 Eternal Scourge. The reason this version is called Eternal Skred is because you have the interaction between Relic of Progenitus and Eternal Scourge, such that if Eternal Scourge finds its way into the graveyard, either through blocking or discard spell or for some other reason, you can actually exile it out of your own graveyard if you target yourself with Relic of Progenitus. So target player exiles a card from their graveyard with the tap ability, and then you can go ahead and exile your own Eternal Scourge. You get to choose what gets exiled, and then you can obviously cast it from exile. The 4-drop and 5-drop slot and 6-drop are the more interesting parts of this deck. You get to play 4 of Koth of the Hammer, which helps you turn the corner once you've maybe cleared up the board or locked out the game with Blood Moon. Just generates a 4/4 attacker every turn with an emblem that usually closes the game on the spot. You have 2 Tron, Torture Defiance. She's removal, she generates mana, she's card advantage, she's everything you want in a planeswalker, and her emblem also just wins the game as well. You play a Hazoret because you can find yourself in a position where you either need to have a big ground blocker, or you just need a card that just starts beating in once you've kind of burned through your hand, and that's exactly what Hazoret does. It also is an alternate win con in case your opponent has something like an Ensnaring Bridge out or some other weird shenanigans. And then you have 3 Pia and Kiran Nalaar. What's interesting about Pia and Kiran Nalaar in this deck is that you can actually sacrifice any artifact, not just the Thopters she creates or they create. You can actually sack your Mind Stones, your Relics, your Wormcoil Engine, anything that's like not particularly useful at any given point, you can actually sack. So if you don't need to cycle this for a card, you need to remove something off the board, or you need to deal 2 damage to your opponent's face or Planeswalker, this is always something to keep in mind. The fact that Pia and Kiran Nalaar can use other artifacts that are not the Thopters it creates. And then of course in the slightly topper end we have 2 Stormless Dragon and a Wormcoil Engine. Stormless Dragon just being a solid flyer in the air, protection from white, means it dodges Path to Exile. Having 4 Toughness means it dodges cards like Lightning Bolt. Monstrosity means that if you flood out or you make it to the late game, this card just ends the game, usually in 2 turns. And then Wormcoil Engine, just a solid 6 mana threat that stabilizes the ground, gains you some life, can be really, really important in certain matchups. So let's go over to the sideboard now. We have 2 Shattering Spree, which is ridiculous against Affinity. It's okay against Ironworks combo. It's obviously a sorcery, so Ironworks combo sometimes tends to go off at instant speed. Not instant speed, excuse me, on their turn, on the same turn that they play the their combo pieces. So this card might sometimes comes down a little bit too early, but it can still be okay there. Still be okay against Tron. You have Goblin Rabblemaster. It's a very fast clock, so if you can disrupt your opponent on turn 1 and 2, then Goblin Rabblemaster just comes down and starts closing the game out against combo decks like Tron, or sorry, combo decks and big mana decks like Tron. 2 Kozilek's Return. Another 2-mana sweeper, but this also hits cards out of Affinity that have protection, such as the Etch Champion, which is the main reason you'd want to run Kozilek's Return. Guttural Response helps you beat the blue decks. It's just a cheap counterspell to beat out a Cryptic Command or a Negate or something like that. 3 Damping Sphere helps you against Tron, Storm, KCI, all these decks that we generally probably have a tough time battling against. Then also 3 Dragon's Claw, because Burn is not an easy matchup, right? Blood Moon doesn't do particularly a lot here. We have a lot of cheap removal, but if we can't end up gaining life or turning the corner quick, then we're in a rough spot. So Dragon's Claw helps us there. And then 1 of Sorcerer's Spyglass to deal with some annoying, cards that have activated abilities, such as Planeswalkers, Oblivion Stones, a whole bunch of different things. It's hard to name it all, but generally, Planeswalkers are going to be the big thing you want to name with Sorcerer's Spyglass, but there could also be other things like Aether Vial, etc., etc. Anyways, that's going to be the deck check for our one and done series here with Skred Red. Hope you enjoy the series, and stick around for the first and only match, coming up in just a second. I will see you guys soon. Alright, what is up everybody? Welcome to the match here for our one and done series. It looks like we're on the draw, but we have a Skred and we have some payoff. I don't think you can ask for much better hands with this deck. Our opponent's going down to 6. I think we'll just go ahead and keep. Opponent going down to 5. So that's always a good sign for us. But there's many decks in Modern that can do just fine on 5 cards. Windswept Heath. Well, if this is a Mana Dork on turn 1, this Skred is going to look mighty fine. Sweet. We can convert this Skred right away. And we even have turn 3 Koth. Not bad. So we'll go ahead and play Mind Stone next turn. Alright, that's another Birds of Paradise. But we generally have a decent matchup against these little bird decks. Ooh, Roast. I can't actually kill their creature. Roast deals 5 damage to target creature without flying. So, just get our Mind Stone down. Maybe beat in next turn with Koth. You can also roast something that they play here if they threaten Devoted Druid combo. Alright, well. Alright. Koth coming down. Alright, which one of these lands is newly controlled? God, how can you tell? I'm just going to target the middle one. I feel like that has the best chance of not being the one. Alright. We did it. We did it. Bunnick's got Patex out here. Sure. That just saves my opponent 4 life. Doesn't do much else. Looks like my opponent might have just packed it in here. Multi 5 is kind of rough, but we do have a good matchup against decks like my opponent, so I think Kozilek's Return is a reasonable card to bring in. Probably the only card we want to consider here. Roast could be okay. Relic might also be okay. They could be a Kitchen Finks deck, could be an Eternal Witness deck. I tend to like Koth on the draw. Maybe cut one relic. I mean, they are a Path to Exile deck, so Hazret might also be a fine cut. Maybe we just want to cut our top end and have more interaction at the bottom. Well, this hand is not going to fly. Looks like we're going to be the ones to take a mulligan this time around. This hand has removal, has lands. Go ahead and put a Wormcoil Engine to the bottom. Alright, we'll go ahead and kill a Mana Dork on turn 1. Once again, we don't want to get hit by like an early Knight of the Reliquary as well. Noble Hierarch. Interesting. Even though we have this Kozilek's Return, I think it's worthwhile to slow our opponent down. Voice of Resurgence. Okay. Sweet, we hit a land. So here I'm fine just deploying both of these relics. Go after our opponent's yard. Again, if they're a Knight of the Reliquary deck, then these relics are going to do some solid work. It looks like they exiled their land first, so maybe they're not a Knight of the Reliquary deck. Birds of Paradise. Alright, let's see if my opponent wants to deploy anything else. And I wonder if it's worthwhile to Kozilek's Return here to stop our opponent from... Oh, well... Kind of like Blood Moon more. They do have the Birds of Paradise, but maybe we can clean that up next turn. If they just jam like a Collected Company here. Alright, another Forest. Another Voice, okay. So no Coco. So Anger the Gods, probably our best draw at this point. Alright. That's the card. That is the card. Our opponent is sitting solely on green mana. Which could be still strong. I mean, if they're a Collected Company deck, they're a Birds of Paradise deck. Thankfully for us, we're curving out quite nicely. Eventually we'll be able to convert these relics into actual cards. Reclamation Sage, alright. That'll kill the Blood Moon. Yep. My opponent is still in it here. We can also hold on to these relics to sacrifice to P and Kieran Alar. Seems kind of cool. Here I think we just want to swing in with 2 Thopters. Opponent maybe wants to use a Path to Exile pre-combat for some ungodly reason. Opponent is considering their lines. They can actually convert this Horizon Canopy into an extra card. They can have up to 4 cards next turn, which will probably give them a fair amount of options. We don't really want to trade P and Kieran, that's why we're not attacking. P and Kieran is much more valuable as removal. Interesting. Path to Exile here. Do I want to sacrifice one of these Thopters to kill the Reclamation Sage? I think so. So this actually shuffles our deck, ramps us towards Wormcoil, which we scry to the bottom, I believe, in this game. So I guess we want to also get that out of the yard. Make their Eternal Witnesses worse. That way they can't like Coco into Eternal Witness in response. Roundnap Excavator, sure. Doesn't seem too strong against Relic of Progenitus. I don't want them to replay the Horizon Canopy out of their graveyard, so I'm going to go ahead and exile that right away. So we'll go ahead and cycle away this Mind Stone. Hazoret? Yeah. Don't mind if I do. Still keeping up one relic activation, which could be fine. Alright, Windswept Teeth it is. And my opponent concedes here. Maybe they realized that Windswept Teeth wasn't really going to do much for them from that spot, right? As soon as they activated that, we could get priority, activate Relic, make them exile it. And then we don't know the last two cards in their hand, so it could have been a game. Maybe they were flooded on cards. Maybe they were mana screwed. But Hazoret coming down there, closing up the game in strong fashion. Blood Moon, Anger of the Gods, showing you how it's done against a green-based creature deck, and that's what this is what Skred Red is really strong against, especially when Graveyard Hate is incidentally strong. Always fine for us, but you know, because this is a one and done series, we're not doing a closing comments, so I'm just gonna wrap it up here. Would like to remind you all to consider liking this video or subscribing to my channel if you liked what you saw. Also, you can go ahead and follow me on Twitter to get updates on when I come out with new content, whether I go live on Twitch or upload something to YouTube. And you can also follow me on Twitch, which is twitch.tv/olagzeal. You should have the text to that right under my face in this video. You can go ahead and follow me on Twitch, get notifications when I go live. We usually either go live around 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Time during the weekdays, or sometimes we have some late night streams during the weekdays and weekends. So definitely go ahead and follow us there. We're a new channel, we're growing, but I hope to see some of you guys from here on YouTube joining us on Twitch. That would be really awesome. I do love to interact with you guys in real time. That's definitely super fun for me, talking to the chat and talking through lines and talking about decks and Magic and Modern, etc., etc. Always really fun for me, and I'd love to see you there in chat. So, I'm going to wrap it up with that. Thank you for watching this one and done series with Eternal Skred, and I will see you all for another series soon.